Pamper Chef business. I don't know how many of you have ever read the book, The Pamper Chef, the story of one of the most beloved companies. Has anybody read this? I have to tell you, I have a 16-year-old son that is so into my business, and he has read this 3 times. And I told him, I said, hey, there's a couple things that I'm looking to kind of get my facts right. And he goes, oh, Mom, well, I'll just take the book off the shelf. And he started putting all the little notes in, like, right here, Mom. And I went, well, that was sweet. So he's such a fast reader. But when Doris Christopher started the company back in 1980, she went to a place called the Merchandise Mart, which was in Chicago. And she felt very overwhelmed. She went in, thought everybody was looking at her like, oh, she's just a housewife, and that she didn't have a lot of money on her bankroll. So she had been there all day, and she finally found this one store, and it had stones, and she was just intrigued by that.
A little louder.
She was just intrigued by that. So she actually started asking the salespeople questions. She said everybody just didn't come up and ask her things, but this one lady came over, so she started asking her, well, what temperature do you cook that at? What things do you make? She started asking all these questions. Do you think anybody could answer her questions for her? No. They had no clue. So this one lady left, because she was just like, wanted to get away from her, because she had no idea how to answer questions. So Doris kept looking, and she was reading what it said on the papers, but it really didn't have what she was looking for. So they sent somebody out from the back to come out and ask her questions. So that happened, and she asked him the same thing, and he's like, I don't know. So finally, what happened was they wanted to close the store, okay? So he told her, he says, you know what, why don't you take 2 of them home and just try them out, and you can report back to me. And she's like, no, 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 no. I'm not here to take these from you. She says, you know, I will pay for them or whatever. Well, they wanted her to buy 12. Do you know how much her first stone cost when she went to that Merchandise Mart? $6. So she had to buy 12 of them, which would have cost her how much? $72. So he told her, just take it home, report back to me. So she thought about that. She's like, you know, that's being a good salesperson. You have no idea how to sell these because you don't know anything about the products. I will go home and try them. So that's exactly what she did. She bought it on a Friday night. By Saturday at noon, she said her family ate very, very well. She said she was absolutely in love with the stoneware. And I have to tell you, the first stoneware I had, you know, I'm only, what Murray said she was 27, was when I was 18 years old, and I had bought my first, or was renting my first apartment, and somebody asked me to come over, and I said, you know, I mean, you did all the frozen stuff, and then she was like, the consultant that was there, she's like, oh, you can do fish sticks and corn dogs and pizzas and all that, and you know, at that point in my life, that was pretty much all I knew how to cook, and I was impressed by that. And that night, the consultant talked to me, and I was like, you know, someday I think I may do this. And I actually didn't join with the Pampered Chef until I had my first son, but it has been an amazing adventure. And one thing I will tell you, in my kitchen is stoneware. Stoneware is just, I think every single house needs it, and I think I own every single piece of stoneware. So, I made myself notes because I know I tend to get off on a tangent. So, some of the things when we're at our shows, and you are not going to be able to share all these things at your show, and you can just take bits and pieces, but I think features and benefits are what we need to share with people at our shows, because if they don't see the benefit of it in their kitchen, are they going to be interested in that product? No, so we have to kind of walk them through their day. So one big thing about Pampered Chef, when we are looking for different things, what do people want things made in? USA. Our stoneware is made in the USA. The clay that they are made out of is mined in the USA, so it is not out of the United States. They are fired at 2,000 degrees, which is a very high temperature, and that's why you see the color. The color is almost like a clay, like a, I don't know what they call that. There's a word to that, and I can't remember what it was. Bisque. Thank you. Who said that? You should get an extra prize, but I don't know.
Give her a ticket.
But one thing too is, if you notice, Pampered Chef has a lot of different manufacturers for our stones. So when you get the stones, sometimes if you have stone by stone by stone, there's a difference in the color or the variation. And that is due to, after they're fired, which I did not realize this, they are all hand finished. So there is a little bit difference, or actually a one-of-a-kind creation. That's why when people have broken a deep-covered baker and we all wish they could just replace the lid or the bottom, Pampered Chef does not do that because they are molded together. They are made to fit together. And if you take them off of different pieces, they don't always fit properly. The best way to season your stone is a gradual process. It's not like the ones that people can go If you've seen the ones that, I can't think, like the clay pots, what are those called?
Glomatons, the ones that you have to put in water.
Right. Ours, you don't have to do that. They can take it out of the box, rinse it with hot water, and start baking something that has a high fat content. Cookies, they can do crescent rolls, they can do biscuits. If you have bacon, not on a flat stone, you wouldn't want to do bacon, but bacon is a good way to season it as well. But anything that has a high butter content. So if you have somebody go, oh, I really don't cook, you know what? You can go buy slice and bake cookies and bake those on your stone. That's going to start to season it right away also. After it seasons, it becomes almost like a natural non-stick. The uglier it looks, the better it cooks, if you've all heard that. But as time, I have stones that are black. They're almost as black as Patty's black in her scarf. And when I've taken those to shows, it's so funny because people go, did they change the color of the stone, Heather? And I'm like, no, it's just really, really old. But one thing about that, I've had this happen a few times, so especially for the new consultants may not know this. If you've had a stone for years and years and years, and sometimes they get black and it almost looks like stuff starts flaking off of your stone, has anybody experienced that? You actually need to deep clean it. Because sometimes people maybe don't clean their stone real well and it just kind of keeps baking that stuff on there. So baking soda and water, and it actually tells us, I want to say it's like maybe a half a cup of baking soda and 3 tablespoons of water, but you want it to be just a very, very thick paste. Let it dry. You can let it dry 10, 15 minutes. You can let it dry overnight, but you will be amazed when you use hot water and you scrape that off, it almost looks like a new stone, except for it still has its seasoning, but it doesn't have any of those little flakes on them. Another thing you always want to tell them is Pam. Do not use Pam on any of your stones. If you have any metal or glass pans at home and you notice it kind of has that brown, sticky residue, it's the chemical that they put when they pressurize those pans, and that is like one of the worst things. If that's staying on your pans and you're ingesting that, what is that doing to our insides? So you really just want to use oil, olive oil. You can do any of that when when your stone is new. Sometimes if you're doing a casserole, you definitely do want to grease it because things are going to stick to it. You can cook frozen food, but one thing you've probably heard is you do not want to put a hot stone, put a frozen pizza on it, because that is called thermal shock and it'll crack that stone. And I've had people say, oh, I've done it for years, and I always go, because I don't want to hear that, but over time you are going to crack it. It may not happen right away, and it'll be when you least suspect it, but it just shocks that stone. So you can put a frozen pizza on there, but you always want your stone to be room temperature. Oh, I did find my note. It is a half a cup and 3 tablespoons of water. All of these tips, and there was many, many more. I actually went, I guess I didn't bring that up here. If you go on Consultant's Corner, there's a spot that's called Stoneware Q&A. There was even a spot on there now that we kind of talk about the gluten. Somehow I missed that one. When someone has a gluten allergy, if it's a severe allergy, they recommend not preparing the allergen on the stone unless you have a separate one for that. So on the back of the stone, you would write for gluten-free products only. That way there's nothing that's being contaminated over. If somebody didn't clean it like they should have, we all know those things tend to happen, so you're better to be safe than sorry on that. So when you talk about your stoneware, one of the best things you can do at a show is to incorporate your story into the things that you use. My kids were really, really little when I started with the Pampered Chef, and they did all kinds of things with me, and now they're really, really big, and they're bigger than me, and they still love to cook in the kitchen. I always say, you know what, John likes to cook in the kitchen, and you know what, my kids, I always say they're going to be good husbands, because they're going to cook for their wife, and that's going to be a good thing. But I do like to incorporate, and I have this one story whenever we're really talking about stoneware, is people go, oh, I love the stoneware because you can't burn on it. That is not true. You can burn on a stoneware, and I had a girl tell me this, and I have used it to this day. She said, Heather, I had put some tater tots and stuff in the oven, and she said, my girlfriend called me, and she says, hey, what are you doing? She goes, well, I'm not doing anything. She says, let's meet for dinner. And she goes, okay, totally forgot she put anything in the oven. She said, I came home 3 hours later, and she said, my tater tots, Heather, were evenly black all the way through. Could not eat them. She said, but the cool thing was, she did not have a fire. She still was able to use her stone. I had her deep clean it, and it's been fine. She's used it for years. But the thing is, if you'd have had a metal or glass pan and you'd have left it, you'd have had a fire before you got back home. So one thing about the stones is it does disperse the heat. So painting word pictures and telling people, you all laughed about that, but you know what? We all do stuff like that, don't we? point where we forget stuff or forget something, don't be afraid to share that at your shows, because we're pampered chefs, not perfect chefs. You can also describe recipes when you're talking about it, you know, just kind of make their mouth water about different things, what we can do next month, or whatever the recipe is you're doing that month. It almost makes them like they can't wait to taste that recipe or book for a show. So we do have a bunch of new stones added to our line. Are you ready to see some of them? All right. This is kind of fun. Okay. So here's our contemporary classics. And you guys, if you want to stand up to see better, then you're all adults. Okay. So everybody knows this was something new they introduced in January. This actually complements our new contemporary classics. This was a large round stone, but what's nice is it has that lip, so you're able to do more on here. My boys were just as excited to go through this, I think, as I was. So one thing about the new stones is that all of these actually